Come on, Curtis. You can do this, man. Take control of the conversation.
I really enjoy the pressure of doing something very quickly. I think that I think we make really good decisions when we move quickly, when there's less time to second guess our ideas and our thoughts and actually go, you know what, that isn't a good idea. This sucks. I suck. There's something about that just speeds the process up and puts you in a place where you can create and really makes you like the best composer you can be in that moment. And it's always the case where we talk about the music for like 4 weeks and then there's like 1 week to actually get it done. And I think this might have been that. It might have been one of those like, we've got a lot of time to prepare and navel gaze and pick apart and write the cue sheet, but only a couple weeks to actually get it done.
You got this.
I think it's Sam and Justin collectively got in touch over Facebook, and we were working on a different project at the time. I think it might have been On the Rock, so we were just tying something else up together when they told me that there was another project in store, and whether or not they get funding, it would get made regardless. So trying to like free up my calendar because they had something special planned. So. This was like a very quiet black and white movie, so it presented itself as sort of a challenge. So when Sam and Justin asked if I would be interested or whatever, like it was like an obvious yes. And I already like immediately the sort of like pinwheel of my brain started to like, twist, and I was thinking about how to do something new with it, which is always fun to go, okay, everyone, I think I know what they're expecting with a black and white film or with a silent film or whatever. Like, how can I make people surprised and delighted with maybe a twist on the genre. Initially, I had this idea, again, to sort of like delight people and surprise them and add a bit of a twist. I thought, wouldn't it be cool if for the first time we didn't have a black and white film or a silent film with just an orchestral sort of real instruments soundtrack? What if we did something different? What if we went in the direction of like synthesized music or electronic music? And that no one would see that sort of coming. But I realized really quickly, as I was sort of getting up like the chicken scratch ideas for the draft or whatever, for those cues, that like it's really difficult to convey and mirror musically the emotion that you're seeing on screen with those characters with synths and stuff like that. It can be done, like it's not impossible, but there's really something about organic acoustic instruments that just comes across as just a bit more honest, that just doesn't come across when you're using synthetic instruments. So when I watched the film, really sat with it, I realized that it was just, I just reached a point where I thought, like, I don't think I can really mirror the emotions and tell the story as well in a sort of relatable way with electronic instruments. Actually, I had this like eureka moment where I realized that all of the Pixar movies, they have a film that plays before the feature film, and it's a short film, and there's typically no dialogue at all. It isn't black and white, it's usually color, but there's usually no talking, or it's very sparse or something, but there's a lot of music. And so I thought, I'm going to let that be my guide musically. I'm not going to go back and try and replicate, like I said, like that sort of old time piano. We've all come to expect that. I wanted to go different, so I watched Piper. So that has like, a family of birds that are trying to like get food before this big wave crashes in. So I watched that. I watched Paperman, which is another sort of Disney Pixar short, which is just like breathtaking, and a lot of music is inspired from specifically those two films. But I watched a whole bunch more, just with no dialogue, but a lot of music. There weren't a lot of parameters, and I wasn't having to always like fact check every cue that I wrote against this against a panel or a committee. There was a lot of trust there to just be like, just do what you do, and go for it. So I would compose the cues. I did it chronologically too. I really started with the start of the film, and then the last cue that I wrote, I think a reprise or something from maybe an earlier cue, but I went start to finish, and every step along the way, I would send off my cues to the parties, the interested parties or whatever. And every step of the way, it was like, thumbs up, keep going. We got something here, keep going. And it got to the point where I no longer had to check cues one by one. I think I wrote like entire passages and sequences. And instead of showing up with a 30-second cue, it was like, well, here's like 4 minutes of the film, start to finish with music for that passage. it was a super fluid process where I felt like I had a lot of creative control and a lot of like trust and support from the filmmakers involved, for sure. With that track, I mean, I really wanted to embody musically the feeling of meeting a new person and all the feelings and butterflies and, you know, all that stuff that comes with it when you just want to like pursue and entertain this new possibility. And so I chose the harp for that, and we have some woodwinds in there too, and there's just something really magical about meeting someone for the first time, and you don't really know anything about each other, and you're kind of like shiny and new to one another before you get to know each other really well, and all these flaws set in. And anyway, but so I wanted to reflect that in the music and have it as almost like Tinker Toy and just sort of fresh and exciting and bubbly. And luckily the performances from the talent were such that like I just had to play off them, because, you know, AJ is so animated and goofy and also charming. He's really, really, really charming. So it was easy to write something where he goes and pursues this, you know, this girl in a dress, you know, this big mystery, you know. A little secret for that track is that track was actually sitting on my hard drive for like a year. And it's one that I'd use, not in a film, but I just used it to promote myself online with a SoundCloud link or something like that, and it had a lot of really positive responses. And when I first got started, that was the one that like just, you know, it had the most listens and everything. So I knew I had something kind of special, but I didn't really have a place for it. And then once I got the footage from Sam and Justin, I just like dragged it in, and it just worked so well. And there was something really great, serendipitous, that happened where I think AJ throws a phone directly into the crotch of one of the aggressors. I'm not sure what he's called in the film. And I have this. I forget what the instrument is. It might be like a really aggressive celesta. It's a bell that just gets like dinged, and it just works so well right when he gets it in like the reproductive area. We get that sound, that attack from the bell, and I just thought, like, I can't not use this now. This has to be in the film. So it was really coincidental and serendipitous that you happen to have this scene with so much action and everything that harkens back to like all those really intense, over the top, musically anyway, movies, and I just happened to have something that worked. So yeah, that was one of those like, wow, that was easy kind of moments. The experience was great working on I Phub You. Like, you really, it's sort of like contagious because you know how much work everyone put into the movie, so you really want to respect that musically. You see the film and you see the extent to which, like, you know, Sam and Justin and everyone involved made sure that the film sort of winks at the genre but also expands on it. So when it comes to cropping and all that stuff, like, all that stuff is like, I'm not a filmmaker, so I don't know that much about it, but you just get the sense, you're like, okay, these guys are really taking it seriously, and I have to bring my A game as well. So it just feels great to work with a really professional team and to bring my music to it and be like, you know, and to try and keep the standards up. That's what it was like. It was going like, is this good enough to share with everyone? Because you can really see how hard everyone worked on it. So yeah, it was a very, very positive experience, and one that I'm definitely happy to see my name. Sometimes you do these things and like your name shows up in the credits and you're like, oh God. But this is one of those movies where I'm just like, I'm like, yeah, I did that. That was me.